What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I'm going to be talking about the game that is going to bridge the gap for me up until the release of Modern Warfare 2, and this is Shatterline. This is a game I've been meaning to check out for a little while, but I haven't really had a chance to dive in and check it out until just this week. And it turns out I'm having a great time with it, and therefore I wanted to make a video just sort of spreading the awareness about this game. This is not a sponsored video, even though it may kind of sound like it, but I'm genuinely just excited to sort of spread the word on Shatterline and get it out there in more people's hands, because it is a free-to-play game. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's on PC only, so you can get that on Steam. The devs have confirmed that they're working on console versions of the game, and they're expecting to release it in February for PlayStation platforms. So that's good news, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And another thing I wanted to mention here that may be a bit limiting to some of you guys that watch me, the controller support right now is also not great. Now, it does support controllers natively. You can just plug a controller into your PC, the game will pick up on it, and you can play. But even as somebody that's grown up primarily as a controller player with FPS games, I am far better with a mouse and keyboard in this game. And while I did dabble with a controller a little bit just to see what it felt like, it didn't go over very well in a lot of situations, at least. Like, I was still able to kind of hold my own, but there were so many situations where I just felt like I was drunk or something. I couldn't hit my shots. So while you can use a controller, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you're at least moderately okay with using a mouse and keyboard. But with those limitations out of the way, the first part I want to touch on, but I didn't really dive too deep into, I just sort of dabbled with it, checked it out. This is the PvE experience, and with this one, it's a co-op mode, and you just sort of push from objective to objective, and every time you complete an objective, you gain some power-ups in the game to be used for that particular match, and then you also gain rewards and XP for every objective that you complete. This is pretty basic and self-explanatory. Like I said, I'm not as interested in this. I'm primarily focused on the PvP stuff, so let's dive into that a little bit. And the first thing to point out is going to be the Operatives. So this is kind of like a hero shooter, at least to some degree, where each operative will have their own special abilities, equipment, as well as an ultimate weapon or ability that they can charge up over a game. However, at least as far as I'm aware, all characters seem to have the same size of a hitbox and the same amount of health. And to me, I personally really like that. I'm not a big fan of hero shooters where everybody's got different health values and hitboxes and all that kind of stuff. I like general gunfights to be a level playing field, and then it's fine to have certain abilities and gadgets on top of that. So in a lot of ways, coming from a Call of Duty player's perspective, I kind of liken this to Black Ops 4, where it's got some hero shooter elements, but it's not a full-on hero shooter. As for the map design, it's very arena style, very deliberate design choices were made for this. Doesn't feel like you're necessarily in like a realistic environment, and instead it seems to be balanced primarily with gameplay in mind first, which I love. Also, a big thing I noticed right away when I started playing, at least with respawn game modes, the spawns seem pretty intuitive right up front. I was having no issue figuring out at least the general area that the enemy team was spawning at any given time. And while there were a few questionable spawns here or there, generally speaking, it was really refreshing to play an experience where the spawns had some predictability to them, because I almost always knew where to go to find a fight if I wanted to find that fight. As for the gunplay, it feels great in my opinion. The handling seems really quick. It doesn't feel like super clunky or anything. There's definitely some twitchier elements to this that really rewards people that are able to snap on a target very quickly and stay on target. And for those of you that don't like jump shotting like crazy, you can't really jump shot effectively in this game. It will pull you out of aiming down sight if you try to jump. However, the sliding seems to be really effective. You might not see it much in the gameplays you're watching because it took me a while to realize just how powerful the sliding is. But if you do decide to check this game out, sliding is definitely the way to go. And another thing you've probably noticed while watching the gameplay is the visibility is not a problem in this game because enemies literally glow red for you, so you'll always be able to pick them out. This is a super arcadey sort of style. They're not going for like full-on realism or anything with this. And I personally really like that. It's not about playing hide and seek or anything. Instead, it's about shooting the other people and them shooting you. As for the progression systems, based on what I know so far with my fairly limited experience, I did just get into this game for the first time this week. It looks like you have different tiers of weapons, and once you earn a certain amount of XP from any weapon within tier 1, then that allows you to unlock tier 2. And then you have to earn a certain amount of weapon XP from any weapon in those tiers in order to unlock tier 3, and so on. It just keeps going from there. And it's also worth noting that you earn in-game currency for playing in matches, and you can use this to buy items in-game in the order that you want, assuming you've at least got that tier unlocked. So once I unlock tier 2 here, for instance, you can pick any one of the guns in tier 2 and spend your in-game currency on it to unlock that, and you choose the order of that. As for the weapon customization, it's pretty basic. We've got a few attachments it looks like you can put on your guns, and the attachments seem to be fairly simple. They tell you exactly what they do to the gun with percentages, which is nice to see, and they all seem to be pretty much straight buffs to the gun as well. It's not upsides and downsides and trying to balance that. It's much more basic and just straight to the point, which I do like as well. Now, the final thing to touch on here are the different game modes that we have for PvP. And at the moment, we only have 4. The first one is Conquest, which is essentially Hardpoint from Call of Duty. We've got Escort, where you have to escort a payload from one side of the map to the other. This is typically played on a very linear sort of a map, so one team's attacking, one team's defending. We've got Demolition, which is a non-respawn round-based game mode, kind of like Search and Destroy. And then finally, we have the standard Team Deathmatch mode. And with that, that's a pretty good general overview of this game. Like I said, I'm having a blast with this so far, and I definitely see this as the game that's going to bridge that gap up until the release of Modern Warfare 2, because there's not a whole lot of other interesting things going on right now, I feel like. And it was kind of the same story last year. I think last year I remember Splitgate. That was the game I was playing leading up to the next Call of Duty. This time around, it's Shatterline, and if you have a PC that can play games and you don't mind using a mouse and keyboard, I would definitely recommend checking this out. Whereas if you don't fall into that category and you're just a console controller player, I'd say it's worth at least keeping track of development here. I'm very interested to see this come to console sometime next year, and as long as they manage to make some pretty significant improvements to the controller support, I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with that as well. So there we go, that's Shatterline. I'm going to let some of the raw gameplay play out, just so you guys can take in some of the sights and sounds of this game as well, so it's not just me talking over gameplay the whole time. And I am curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. If you guys have played Shatterline so far, what are your thoughts on it? And if you haven't played it yet, is this something that appeals to you? Whether you're a PC player that may want to download it and check it out right away, or a console player that maybe just wants to track development, just let me know what you're thinking about this game so far. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Victory is near. Don't screw it up.
Absolute class.
A miracle of science.
Reloading, 1 second.
This is what I call a flawless victory.